Hi, hello, and welcome to Life Off Script. I'm your host, Yaz, and I might sound a bit scraggly today. I am feeling a bit under the weather at the moment, but we're pushing through, and that's all that matters. This week, we're going to get into my ins and outs for 2025. It is a bit late in the game to bring the ins and outs. Like, yes, we are in April. Dare I say it's too late? Dare I also say, forget a timeline. I think these are still relevant whether we're going to say them in January or April. So that's my theme for today is ins and outs. Not very serious, bit silly, bit fun. Off the back of everyone being silly in the world, including politicians, aka that group chat, I just feel like every adult that is supposed to be acting normal and appropriate within their position are acting very, very silly. And that note, I'm like, well, if they're being silly, I'm going to be silly. So, my 2 week recap, I actually just came back from the snow. I went to the French Alps with my girlfriends. So you can stay in Val d'Isere, which a lot of people stay in. Very expensive, but beautiful. And then on the other side, there's Teens. And my friend Bridie, her work colleague, told us to stay in Teens, Tignes, which is generally really cheap comparison to Val d'Isere and had equally the same amount of slopes, and you could get from Teens through the ski lift to Val d'Isere and go to the praise in there. I mean, of course, the taxi and the Uber situation is genuinely touch and go. um, it's not really that good over there, but I mean, what do you expect? You're in the Alps. So as long as you have like an open mind to that, I feel like it was a perfect holiday. We literally woke up, would walk down to the bakery, have a French almond croissant, and then we got our snowboarding gear and we would snowboard for hours and hours and hours. And then we would snowboard to a praise ski, which was like La Folie, which was in between. Well, it's in Val d'Isere, but you can get there from Teens really easily. And you'd go there and you just have the best time. The only thing I'd say is that it's expensive, but I mean, what isn't expensive nowadays? I feel like forking out €18 for an Aperol Spritz is basically London prices if you really want to squint at that. But yeah, so did that. And then we also went to Coco Rico, both in the Val d'Isere one and the Teens one. And they were both great. So much fun. Would recommend buying bottles of vodka or whatever spirit and sneaking them in, just to save a little bit of dosh. But otherwise, so fun, great music, great vibes. Everyone's just in their ski gear enjoying life. So highly recommend that. So that was the best fun, and I'm actually going to refer back to it in one of my ins and outs for 2025 just because there's something specific that I wanted to talk about. And I'm just going to get back into my health, fitness, girl era. My rebrand, one might say, as summer approaches, I need it. I've gotten really pudgy. I've just been having too much red wine, too many Sunday roasts, and it gets dark at 4 p.m. So, anyway, we're back in our fitness girl era. I've started running again, and I've realized actually, speaking of, running doesn't really entice me for a lot of reasons, aka losing toenails. Run clubs scare me. They are a bit wanky, but they just scare me when they come at you like a stampede of bulls in the park. But there is something to be said about having a destination in mind and knowing that you can get there in half the time that Google Maps says. There is something to be said when I've started trying new places to go for coffee and pastries and knowing that Google Maps doesn't even know that I'm going to run. So it's saying to me an hour. Please. What do you know? Google Maps, what do you know? And you know what? It's quite satisfying to know that Google's wrong because Google invades our privacy every day in so many different ways, in so many different aspects of our life. But one thing it doesn't know is whether I'm going to run or walk that route. And I've been feeling very satisfied when I start running it. Anyway, that's just me and Google's beef, but that's okay. Let's move on. And then my recommendations lately, I've been like hyper fixated on New York brain training games, and now I think Wordle is too archaic. We've pushed past it. We're leagues and bounds away. Wordle is too easy. It's too easy. It uses like a minuscule of your brain. Now, the one that I want to recommend that I've been doing every morning and I'm absolutely loving it is connections. It's honestly so advanced. Half the time, I never know if I'm going to get a full 4 in a row done or if I get none done. And there's no hints. It's just so good at keeping me on my toes. The reason I want to suggest it is because it's basically equivalent to Nintendo DS Lite brain training. If you know, you know. I feel like this is preventing dementia down the track, and I don't think it will be in reality, but I think it's helping somewhat. And you know what? If I'm on TikTok doom scrolling away and at least I've done my connections game, I do feel a bit better about myself. So that is my recommendation. It's so fun. It makes you feel really superior when you actually get all 4 right and your colleagues or your friends don't. So something to think about. I also have another rec, which is All I Wanted to Be Was Hot book by Lucinda Frooms. I actually have a bookmark that I got with it because I got the book as a part of a Kris Kringle present from my best friend Greta. And what Greta did was she DM'd Frooms and was like, hey, can you do some sort of like message or photo or like drawing on this picture of Yaz? And so Greta laminated this like defaced picture of me. What Frooms had actually done was make me look like Pitbull. So she gave me a bald cap and she wrote, let me read it actually. It's called May Your D's Be Dallied. So I have a bookmark of my face where I'm cosplaying as Pitbull and it's saying May Your D's Be Dallied. And then on the back is like a collage of pictures of me and Greta and her saying I love you. It's a very interesting bookmark, but I do love it. So thank you, Greta, for that. So my ins and outs for 2025 are as follows. Ins, as I mentioned before, brain training, New York Times connections. In, learning how to snowboard properly without crying. This is a specific one as the last few times I've snowboarded, I've been on the verge of tears. So it's something that I'm going to try and actively avoid doing in my ski trip, which I'm going to next week with a few friends. I've got all my gear. So I'm just now in that type of mental training where I need to not cry every time I fall over. Yes, hello. This is Yasmin from the future to talk about the snowboarding trip that I had last week. I actually recorded this episode obviously before my snow trip, but then life got in the way. And looking back, I'm like, well, actually, I did cross that in off, babe. I really did because I snowboarded for 3 days straight and I didn't cry once. In fact, I stopped doing the swinging or the falling leaf effect, which if anyone knows what that is, it's like the first thing that you do as a snowboarder when you first start learning snowboarding, which is like facing down the mountain but like on your heels and you go really slowly from one side to the other, a falling leaf. I did that for the longest time. And in France last week, I actually ended up doing the full snowboarding S effect, like, you know, toes down, regular foot, going from like in and out, like a proper snowboarder. Very exciting, but it turns out practice does make perfect. And I now know how to snowboard. Not very well, and I did fall on my ass, but I didn't cry, and I got infinitely better. And on top of that, I didn't even cry when we left La Folie Douche, which is like in the middle of the mountain, and we missed the gondola back. So we went down a red run, I believe, or a green run. I don't know, but I was not in a state to be able to snowboard down. And halfway through the run, I look back and there's this guy like following me and he keeps stopping when I'm stopping. And I'm like, what's this guy doing? Turns out that it was the guy, it was a staff member who was like, I'm literally trying to clean this slope and make sure no one else is on it. You're the last bitch on here. And I feel like he said that in French to me. And he was not happy because I didn't know how to snowboard that well. At that point, I was also tipsy from the Aperol spritzes. And I was on a run that I was definitely not in a position to do. And it was getting really late. So he was not happy. And at one point, I was going down the mountain head first on my back, just letting that snow take me down. But yeah, I didn't even cry then. So I feel like resilience was at an all-time high in France. Go me. Another in is White Lotus, and then accompanying this, School of Rock. A rewatch of School of Rock is honestly necessary this year. I mentioned School of Rock because Mike White, who is the director and writer of White Lotus, also wrote School of Rock, and why they're both instant classics, and it makes a lot of sense once you realize this. HPV for women, girls, get your pap smears done. Very, very important. It's actually in for you guys, but it's out for me because I just got tested negative last week, and cheers to that. In GHD blowout brush or any cheap dupe, but I will say that GHD blowout brush is amazing. This tool has stopped me using my straightener and my curler. I literally use it every day and it makes me look like I have a blowout every day. Even when I look scraggly and a mess, I just do it. I run through it. It takes like 15 minutes max. And it makes me look like I'm one of those ladies that has a blowout every week, except it's every day and it's because I have this brush. So, not sponsored, I just absolutely love it. And I think, where has this been all my life? It's truly incredible. In ginger beer with a lime and lots of ice. I don't know what is about ginger beer, but it's truly a magical drink. And I feel like when I don't feel like a Coke Zero, I don't feel like alcohol, the ginger beer just comes in clutch. You know what I mean? Okay, this one's a reference to Till, who I think her friend Hannah got onto it, which was cinnamon in your coffee, which brings abundance. If you swirl it clockwise, I've been doing that for the past week, and I actually got money back from a travel claim that I disputed because they rejected me initially. And I never thought I'd get that money back. So you know what? The cinnamon does work, and I've been using it every day. I just heat it up with the milk, and it's brilliant. In the musical Hairspray 2007 soundtrack, it's underrated masterpiece, and of course, it's also trending right now because Nikki Blonsky is all over my For You page with cameos that are honestly insane. But I can't deny that she is iconic in the film. And you know what? She may be a one-hit wonder, but she was a one-hit wonder in doing things that fulfill you creatively. This one is basically going back in time. You want to find things that made you really happy when you were quite young. I feel like I put that all on hold when I started growing up, and I've now recently started going back into it, which is like drawing and tennis and things like that. And you know what? There's a reason I loved it as a kid, and there's a reason I'm loving it now. So I think that's something that people really need to stop and think about is like, have we really kind of taken away all our love for certain hobbies when we were a kid? Because I feel like that's something that we should really return to. And then my last in, and this one's a controversial, and if you asked any of my friends who know how I read, they would also say don't do this, but I think it's an in for me, which is when I read a rom-com book or like a romance book or a fantasy book, I skim read the book. So what I do is I basically find all the chapters where the main girl speaks to the love interest. And I read without context all those chapters and make sure that I'm liking the way it's written all the way up to the end. And then if I enjoyed that, that's when I go back and read the full book from start to finish properly and slowly. The reason is just I hate reading books where I'm like on a roll and then I'm like, this is going to fulfill me, this is going to fulfill me. And then I get to a point and I'm like, I actually hate this book and it's devolved into madness and none of it makes sense. Fourth Wing, controversial hot take, but Fourth Wing's pacing at the end was insanely bad. And I won't budge on that. Okay, outs. I am specifically talking about London when I say this, but people farting in my face on the train. Oh my God. You all know that UK food is not not the greatest. Like think beans on toast, sausage rolls, like mince pies and stuff. I've never smelt farts like the farts that I get fucking whiffs of on the train in London. It's fucking insane. It actually, like, if I was not a stronger person, I would probably pass out. Truly. And they do that in like winter. And I'm like, so the smell is permeating through your thermals, your jeans, your long winter coat, and then into my face. It's crazy. And they do it without shame. No one has shame on that fucking train. No one has shame on the train or the tube. It's just foul. Um, Colleen Hoover and her fucking vacuum last name. Okay, Colleen Hoover has drama constantly around her. Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry, controversial opinion. Her books suck. If you want a book written well, got a great plot, got a great love interest, everything, you should be reading Cecilia Ahern's books, who wrote P.S. I Love You, which is a movie. She wrote Where Rainbows End, which is actually Love Rosie, another movie that we all know and love. Her books are phenomenal. Okay, controversial. I love Recipe Tin Eats, and all her recipes are fantastic. The best recipe you'll ever use. I will never use like any other recipe if there's a Recipe Tin Eats one available. However, I just want to speak to the designer of her book cover, and I just want to ask if they hate Nagy. If not, why make that book cover? The book cover is giving Curtis Stone Cole's under $10 meals for your family of four, which was nearly always impossible anyway. I just like don't understand because I'm like, I would love that book and I would love to have it on a coffee table. And I'm not saying that my flat is the most aesthetically pleasing flat you've ever seen. Definitely not. I don't have the money for that. But like it wouldn't hurt if the book looked a bit more, cute on my coffee table. I'm just like wondering why she went with that design cover and like who forced her to do that design cover, because it broke my heart when I saw it. Truly, it broke my heart into pieces. Another one that might be controversial. It's men that like wear track. I'm just like, sorry. Men that wear trackies like out and about. I don't know. There's something evil about it. It carries evil, like dark energy, and I hate it. And I think that grown men wearing trackies outside of the house is insanity and it should be illegal. And if I was in the House of Parliament, that would be one of the bills that I'd put forward for reading, would be no trackies outside of house, specifically men, unless valid reason. Another out for 2025 is Ed Sheeran's new music. Okay. Ed Sheeran, I love him to bits. Love, love, love. Think he's a great little ginger lad. I used to be obsessed with his old music. Keyword old music. What is going on with his music nowadays? Does anyone have an answer for me? I feel like I've literally jumped to a parallel universe where everyone is loving Ed Sheeran's new music sick. What is going on? As soon as he released Shape of You, he lost me. He genuinely lost me. I need him to bring back the Plus album, the Multiply album, and the rest can fucking eat dust. What is with these fuck ass pop music that he's bringing out? Okay, first of all, that collab with Chance the Rapper and Eminem in that weird like album that he brought out. Help! What was that? It it actually can't be real. And the only reason I know that song that Chance the Rapper featured on is because the Pilates class that I used to go to, Bodie and Ride, I do love Bodie and Ride, but Bodie and Ride used to play that song way too often. And honestly, it did make me dissociate during my spin class, maybe for the better. But at the end of the day, the only reason I know that song and the reason I have such hatred for it is because it was on my spin class playlist. I need Ed Sheeran to tell me if he's being held hostage by Shakira. It's giving Shakira energy. I don't know why, but it is. Why can't he bring out another album of Small Bumps, One, I'm a Mess, Tenerife Sea, all those bangers, A-Team? No, we miss that Ed Sheeran. And I actually don't care about, oh, well, he's changed and like that's, you've just got to appreciate his old music. I can't. I have no idea who told him, hey, you should start doing poppy music. And I want to speak to them. I really do. I really want to say, should we sit down and just maybe discuss how you've really ruined Ed Sheeran's career? Because I can tell you right now, Ed Sheeran would be on the level of Taylor Swift. And like arguably he kind of is, but like on that level with like, no bad songs, if he just kept to that Multiply Plus type bangers. So devastating. You know what is really hurting his music nowadays is that the people that used his old music were the YouTube and TikTok editors for, TV show ships and like couples and stuff like that, and all those sort of romantic movies and shows. And of course, they're not going to put Galway Girl against a bloody sad scene where someone dies. Or when Troy and Gabrielle say, I've got to go my own way, and it's a High School Musical edit. They're not going to put Shape of You on that, are they? Nah. They're going to put One, which is just so good. They're going to put Shirt Sleeves. They're not putting on Barcelona. I could tell you right now, they're not chucking that one on. So I think what's really hurting his plays for his new music is that none of it applies to TikTok or YouTube edits. And those were his main sources of income, dare I say it. Sorry, just side note on that. I just got a text from Till, my housemate, and she's just messaged me saying Corbin Blue from High School Musical is at her work. So that just got sent in right now, 1 minute ago. So I feel like the universe is saying something about High School Musical. I'm not sure what, but we can delve into that in the next episode when we've got 2 weeks of signs to look out for. Being influenced by influencers is another out. Okay, I just have beef with this one influencer and I really like her, but she recommended this jacket and I loved it and I was like, yep, great. And I didn't realize at the time it was a drop shipping company. So the jacket came smelling like it had been like sauteed in rocket fuel before being packaged and sent to me. No doubt by a young underpaid worker, if we even call them workers. And I paid good money for that. And I was like, I'm actually betrayed. Like I feel like an actual betrayal has happened here, guys. Anyway, that bothered me to no end. And then my last one is ice cubes too big for the glass. I have been getting those massive square cube trays from, your local shops. And I've realized they actually don't fit my tall glasses because one time I put it in, it was resting at the top and I am very impatient as a person. And I couldn't be bothered waiting for it to like slowly drip down into the glass. So I shoved it in and it broke the whole glass. And that's my own fault. Could have seen that coming. But you know what? Instead of blaming myself, I'm going to be blaming those ice cubes, and I won't be buying ice cubes that size again. Anyway, these are my ins and outs for 2025. Don't know if anyone resonates with those ones, but that's what I've got so far. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow me on Instagram, TikTok. The name is the same, Life Off Script Pod. And also, you can find this podcast on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and all those other ones. Okay. Thanks so much. Bye.